Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Welcome to the Financial Independence Coach, naturally creating freedom, meaning, and wealth. Brought to you by FOPTY Ltd, in association with Brandlive.co.za. And here is your host and coach, Yvonne E. Fentello.
It's a Monday morning and we are busy with the Financial Independence Coach show. Now, I've received several, and I mean several questions with regards to why haven't I expanded on the shoebox experiment? For the pure reason that I have not expanded on this yet is because I wanted you to keep on doing it. So now you have been doing the shoebox experiment for a while, and you have hopefully recorded all your expenses and all your income as you have been going along. I hope so. Well, now that you have all your expenses and all your income recorded as you went along, you will find that those numbers tell you a story. A story of how you are living, experiencing your financial life. Now, when it comes to financial independence, you have to know what your financial life is like before you can rectify anything or even have the financial independence that you want. Now, once you have recorded all of this information and all those numbers are staring back at you on a piece of paper or Excel spreadsheet or Waves app, and you look at it and you can't quite understand the story. For instance, in our interview with Dr. Michelle, she used the example that when they sat down looking at their budgets, they couldn't understand why they always came up short. 300 Rand, to be specific, short. Now, if they didn't do a shoebox experiment in their own right by what they are spending monthly, they wouldn't have known the exact amount that they kept up coming or short with. Now, once you know what that amount is, you can start going looking. Where are the holes in your bucket? Where is that money dripping from? Now, it could be something silly as a cup of coffee going to work every morning. It could be something silly as buying a Big Mac for lunch every second day at work. Or it can be something big, like debit orders that's going off your account, and you're not quite sure what those debit orders are about. Now, in all my years in the financial industry, whenever I got to a new client to advise them on their financial planning, there was not a single scenario where I sat down with the client and I said, okay, fine, let's look at your affordability. In short, let's do a short shoebox experiment, half an hour tops. And when we took their bank statement, we found that there are several, let's call it anomalies, that's on their bank statement. Debit order for this, debit order for that, debit order for that. And when I actually cornered them and said, but what is this debit order for? What are you paying this amount for? They could not answer me. My own mother's bank account was like that at one stage. And when we started investigating what those debit orders was for, we found that half of the stuff she doesn't even qualify for. If you go and look at the very, very, very fine print, the T's and C's at the end of the contract that you supposedly accepted. Because you have supposedly accepted it if you are paying the monthly debit order. Now it's all these little, let's call them foxes, that's in your budget, that's in your shoebox experiment, that is creating the total effect of Parkinson's law. Because if you don't control those little foxes, those little anomalies in your budget, in your expenses, they are going to exceed your income. For instance, you have a couple of debit orders coming off your bank account. When last did you reevaluate those debit orders? Now, with the older generation, this would more ring true to them. They, for instance, sign contracts on life policies, on unit trust investments, on retirement annuities, on disability, on, you name it, critical illness, impairment, accidental cover, whichever kind of policy. A bank policy in case of, to cover the overdraft or the credit card. But if you go and reevaluate those to what your life is now, your life is certainly not the same as 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago when you originally stepped into that contract, when you originally signed and accepted that debit order. Your life is definitely not the same as 2 years ago when you had the expendability of going jawling every weekend. Because now maybe you are studying. Or maybe you are paying for subscriptions to online magazines or actual paper copy magazines, but you haven't received any in months. You've moved, your postal address has changed, but you've never reviewed those debit orders going through your bank account. In the same way, you have been in the habit, and I say this as a habit because it is a habit. If you do it constantly, ongoing, every day or every week, it's a habit. You have been going to work, purchasing coffee on the way there, coffee at lunchtime, or a Big Mac at lunchtime, or going to KFC at lunchtime, or you might even be the extreme kind of habit. Yay, yay, it's payday, let's stick ourselves to a KFC lunch. Or let's go all down to the mall and have lunch there. And we do that for the first week or so until we start feeling the wallet pinching. And then we get to the 15th of the month or the 20th of the month, and all of a sudden, the bank account is pinching too. Because it's really getting empty. And remember, your bank costs, that's your payment to the bank for keeping your money and giving you interest and paying all the employees that does a part of that work, is going off right at the end of the month. And yet there's no money for it because you've spent it all. It's only once you've gone through that whole experience of the shoebox experiment and you've done it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and you've compared it to your bank statement that you can find the aspects of your budget, of your financial life, where you are subject to Parkinson's law. And only then can you start on making a choice to change it. Because remember, you are a being with the greatest gift under the sun: freedom of choice. In South Africa, you've got even a greater advantage to that. We've got the act called treating a customer fairly. So even if you are in a contract, or you're bounded by a contract, and your life circumstances change, you can go back and say, but I can't keep up with this. And whoever the supplier is, have to, by law, treat you fairly. With any investment policy, with any life policy, with any kind of insurance cover, that company has to treat you fairly. If your circumstances have changed, they have to supply you with the service to help you change the cover. A simple scenario, for instance, why pay for a cover that is no longer going to cover you? That when you get to a claim stage and you want to claim, you don't qualify to claim in any case. Or you've been paying towards something that you never qualified for in the first place. There are simple examples of these right through your budget. You might, for instance, have a credit card. Now, all credit cards come with this additional piece of paper that the bank gives to you that is to cover you for accidental death and disability. And that is an additional cost that is onto that account. Now, by no fault of the credit providing consultant that is working in the bank, that is not explained to you in detail what that cover is about, because by right, it is actually not her work to explain it to you. The cover is supposed to be explained to you by the supplier. So if your credit card is supplied by Bank A, your cover is most probably supplied by an outsourced insurance company. And they are supposed to send you information about that cover. Now, as Murphy's Law has it, most of us don't even read the documentation. We file 13 it. You know, file 13, the dustbin there in the corner. Oh yeah, it's just information about the credit card, insurance, and those kind of nonsense. Let's just file 13 it for later. When I'm bored, I'll read it. But the problem is there is critical information in there that the company's seen this is the best way to convey it to you so that you can have it on hand when needed. But if you don't bother to read it, what's the point? Most companies have moved over to electronic base to email it through to you, but it's the same thing. Open the email. It's from the bank. It's with regards to the insurance. Just delete it. And you never keep it. The impact of that I will explain after the break. But now first, let's take an ad break.
This is what you missed on brandlive.co.za.
We're broadcasting live in one of the boxes at 27 boxes.
Hey, can I ask you something there? Can you please tell me, do you think the post-90s, did they really fully integrate,
Sure.
Since we're talking about integrating today, though.
But you do what? Civil engineering?
Civil engineering, yeah.
Okay, and how's that going for you?
It's okay.
So
It's
a whole
fine.
lot of studying?
School, it's a lot of studying.
And
I
banking
guess.
school, a lot of banking school.
I don't bunk school. I just don't go to school when they tell us not to go.
Lies.
I mean,
Well, no, I've seen this with my eyes. Lies.
Someone was saying, I'm sure there's 10
soapies now happening
Listen.
same time.
I'm gonna say something, right? That might
Say it.
that might sound like I'm shading or hating
Yeah.
or whatever. There's lots of work for actors right now, but lots of actors aren't working. Lots of people are acting.
Ooh. Insightful conversations.
This is what you missed on the social show.
My first question then is, where are these hubs of economic development? Which township do I find a hub of economic development? Why must, if the focus is really capacitating the disadvantaged, why must I climb onto
Travel.
3-4 taxis to get to a certain area? A certain area has got about 6 to even 20 of these, right? Coming from Alexander or Tembisa. So you then find that there is a township economy, but the people that are living within this township economy, that are starting businesses in this township economy, are not full participants of this township economy.
For more, go to www.brandlife.co.za.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za.
And you're back. You're listening to the Financial Independence Coach, brought to you by Yeffel Pty Ltd, broadcast here from 27 Boxes, brandlife.co.za. Before the break, we were talking about different covers and how those covers affect you. Now, to file 13, a document that the bank has sent you with regards to the cover on your credit card, to be exact. Now, if you don't take the time to properly read through the email or the document that has been sent to you with that information, you will never quite understand what that information is. Now, obviously, when the insurance companies send out this information, it's so filled with jargon, insurance jargon, that if you don't know what this jargon mean, you have no clue what it is. But you have a contact number, and you've got an email address, and some sort of platform, whether it's a call center or a direct consultant, that you can contact and question them about it. Now, if you file 13 this document, you wouldn't even know that. Now, let's say you did not file 13 this document, and you did actually take the time and effort to read through it, and decided, you know what, I don't understand it, I'll just keep on paying the premium. You know, that additional premium that's on my credit card, or the additional premium that's on my overdraft, or the additional premium that is on my cell phone contract. That additional premium is Parkinson's law. Why do I say that? Because that additional premium is for cover. Now, unless you have insured by doing your due diligence on that cover, you are paying for cover which you might not qualify for. Accidental death and disability is a perfect example. Because if you are in an admin position where you can sit behind a desk and type, and you are in a car accident, and as a result of that car accident end up as a paraplegic, you can still sit behind a desk and type. Yes, by definition, you are now disabled. But by definition of the policy, you can still maintain your work. Yes, it might be difficult because you're on the 28th floor in the building, or there's just access with steps. It's the fine print. By definition, you can still work and earn an income. Thus, you do not qualify to claim. So if that's the scenario, and you're still paying that premium, let's calculate this quickly. Let's say, for argument's sake, that premium is 10 Rand a month. Yeah, I know 10 Rand sounds ridiculous, but just hang a second with me. Let's say that premium is 10 Rand a month that you are paying. Over a year, that premium comes to 120 Rand. Over the past 5 years, you see the picture now. Every 10 Rand accumulates to a bigger amount. Now, you can ask yourself the question, do I pay that 10 Rand towards a cover which now, through my due diligence, I have found out I do not qualify for? I continue to pay that 10 Rand premium and thus throwing it away, contributing to, say, insurance companies' profit margins? Or do I take that 10 Rand and work smartly with it? Do I take that 10 Rand and put it in some sort of investment? Now, this can be 10 Rand. It can be 100 Rand. But what do you do with that 10 Rand? Is that 10 Rand actually working for you or against you? Are you actually going to be able to accumulate an asset out of that 10 Rand when the time comes to have an asset to back you up? For when you're in a car accident and you're now suddenly a paraplegic, you need an asset to cover your bases. Yes, you will eventually be able to do something and move forward in life and do some sort of work moving forward. But will you have that asset? Or will you not qualify for it? Or do you make the decision to take that 10 Rand or 100 Rand and invest it? Yes, okay, 10 Rand is a bit small, so you won't be able to buy Bitcoin or put it into a unit trust somewhere for now. But you can put it in a savings account and park it. Yes, bank interest is not that wonderful. There are investments that give much bigger interest than that. And if you're willing to take the risk, you can get even better interest than that. But park it. Make the choice to make the money work for you. Park that 10 Rand in a savings account. At the end of the year, you'll have 120. At the end of next year, you'll have 240. By just reevaluating that one small factor that you have picked up in your shoebox experiment. Now imagine yourself, you do this with every single thing that goes off your bank account. Every single expense, every single debit order, every single cost, every single cent that you spend. You turn that cent over and you really do due diligence on it. Is it needed? Is it part of my Maslow heresy, of my security, my safety, my food? Do I really need it? Or am I just subjecting myself to Parkinson's law? So once you reevaluate those things, you can make informed decisions. A perfect example was, at one stage I was given an orphan book. moving over from Sage to Momentum. And when I went through this orphan book, now I must say it's an orphan book. The definition by itself means that there's nobody servicing those contracts no more. Now the law has changed several times and has been fine-tuned that any policy has to have a servicing agent or advisor or planner onto it. But if there isn't, the company is supposed to appoint somebody to service those contracts. Whether it's a general call center or an actual individual, but somebody needs to service their contracts. Now we know there are several policies that's been taken out over how many years, and most of those policies might have fallen through the cracks here and there, and that's how they end up being orphans. Now when these orphans were handed to me, I was given a background of the original contract that they signed. And it was when I was doing due diligence before contacting these clients that I realized that on a lot of them, they don't have all the factors or facets that they're supposed to have. When I contacted those clients, and I actually sat down with them and I worked with them through those contracts, they came to the realization their idea of what they were paying for, the illusion that was created for them when they originally accepted and signed the agreement for the debit order to go through their bank account, is nothing compared to what they actually have on paper. On several occasions, I asked those clients, do you have the original documents which you either signed or which was delivered to you either in person or by post? Now, when those contracts were taken out, emails weren't that big yet. So there weren't any emails. So it was a paper copy of some sort. And not one of those clients, no, I lie, there was one client. But out of all those clients, 99% of them did not have the original document. Sad to say, you don't have the original document. You don't have the original scope of what was promised to you in this product delivery. You've got no foot to stand on what is presented to you, what you've got now. So if you don't do the due diligence of what you've got, you don't reevaluate it through the years that you have it, how can you expect to have the illusion what you think you're paying for on a monthly basis? Now, no fault to their own that maybe the document wasn't delivered. Or maybe the person that sold it to them didn't explain it properly. But surely as a responsible adult, and I say adult because you're earning your own money, you managing your own money, so surely you must be big enough to be called an adult. You would have done due diligence somewhere along the line to ensure that you've got what you think you have. And unfortunately, most of us don't. Most of us accept this is what we've got. Most of us sit in the situation of the bucket is just dripping empty and there's nothing for spending and we cannot explain where it's going, but we don't look at the bank account and we don't look at the debit orders and we can't explain what those debit orders are for. And once we actually do get forced to do due diligence on it and we go and look at what is involved in it, we get a shock of our life for realization that what we've got is not what we think we had, or what we completely forgot we had, and we've been spending money on it this entire time, instead of making that money work for us. Not only once you have gone through this entire exercise and you have actually got somebody in to advise you or give you more information on it, then only you can rectify it. But on that subject, we'll chat in another show. So, that is my story for today. Recorded live here at 27 Boxes for brandslife.co.za in association with Yeffel Pty Ltd. If you want to contact us, by all means, you can contact us via our email admin@yevl.co.za. And until next time, I say shalom.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za.